to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Catherine. I'm a year 3 teacher in the UK, and today I wanted to do a video for NQTs or people just wanting to know some more about teaching on the routines and procedures / expectations to set on that first week of school. So like I said, this video is just all about some routines, procedures and expectations that I feel you should set on the first week of school. Now, this is not anything that you have to do. You won't be a good teacher if you don't do this, and I am by no means a professional at this. This is just things that from my NQT that I've just finished, I would have had a better year if I had done these things. So I wanted to share those ideas with you guys. So what I'm going to do is just talk about the routine, procedure and expectation, like what I think you should do and how I'm going to do that in my class this year. I kind of switch between the words a lot because I can't decide if it's a routine, procedure or expectation, but you know, we'll see. So the first one is the arrival, and basically that is just what your children are going to do when they first come in the mornings. So for me, I was quite aware that my children come from everywhere. Some of them in breakfast club, some of them live far away, some of them live really close. So they're not all gonna rock in at 10 to 9 every day, like all 30 of them at the same time. I'm gonna have to keep some children occupied while the rest of them kind of drip in. So I was actually pretty good at that last year, for NQT. So I did have a morning routine already set for them. I had morning work to do every day, but because I kept changing what I did sort of as the year went on, it got a bit confusing and I wasn't sure what to do when I came in. So my advice is firstly to have a set activity that the kids do every day, and it hasn't got to be the same thing, it can be different, but just have it like this is the set thing you do, and try and keep it consistent so it doesn't change halfway through. So last year I had morning workbooks. If I can find a picture of them, I'll pop it here. And I ended up not doing that anymore because it was taking a lot of paper and I didn't want to print 26 papers every day just to write on it, and it was a bit of a waste. So I did switch to doing things that were either hands-on or on whiteboard. This year then I am, like I said, doing that same thing, but I'm also including some math starters because our math scheme is just massive and I struggled last year to fit it all in the lesson, and it'll be easier if they do this part in the morning and then we go through it in the lesson and then carry on from there. So I set this out with a morning work slide that hopefully you can see now. It's always got the morning work displayed on it as well as the morning to-dos, what they do when they come in. So wash their hands because of the Rona, put things away, sit down, do their discover, which is the maths work, and then they will go on to morning work. Like I said, it's always split into Maths Monday, so it's maths. Tinker Tuesday is a STEM activity, so I give out resources and they build something or a challenge. Writer Wednesday, it used to be they write based on a prompt, but now I'll incorporate more literacy skills and sentence editing and things like that. Timetable Thursday, so they'll have a test or a revision for a test. And then Free Choice Friday is colouring, painting. It'll be Chromebook time where they can have a Chromebook and go on a school website, finish some work, whatever they want. As long as it's school appropriate, I honestly don't mind. So that is my number 1 routine to do, just have something in the morning. Number 2 then is pretty similar, and it is your dismissal routine. So to have something for the end of the day. Now, going back to my NQT year, this was probably one of my worst, like the worst thing I had going on, because my class would always leave late because I kept forgetting that the lesson doesn't end at 3:30, the children go home at 3:30. So 3:30 would hit, there'd be parents waiting and my kids are still finishing off work. This meant that they didn't tidy before they went home. It was a massive rush, so I often forgot to give out letters and homework and things like that, and announcements and things. So they'd come in and say like, you didn't tell us it was so-and-so today. And I'm like, yeah, because I forgot, because he literally went straight home. So to kind of address that, I started having a dismissal routine. So not like the morning where they had something to do, but there was a certain structure of events that would happen that would lead up to going home. So first thing I would do is I would stop the lesson 10 minutes before home time, because in my head, I would just forget otherwise. And to be fair, I probably should have ended there anyway. My bad. So they would stop the lesson 10 minutes before, we would tidy up, and then we would have our end of the day activities. So when I changed my behaviour management strategy, at the end of the day I would sort of reveal how they've done. So I always had spies, I had 3 spies who would look at behaviour. So I always made sure at the end of the day they would stand up, reveal what their spies, and then tell everybody how they did. That was one thing that was before home. At this point, the room is tidy and the children have got all their things for home. So they've got bags and coats on. I've given out homework and letters and things while they're all getting tidied. And we are now just literally waiting for the bell to go so we can go home. So that was one thing we did. I also had birthdays at that point. So we had a birthday game. We had different things. If you want a video on things I did like that, I can make that, but I won't talk about it right now. And then the last thing, there was one more thing we did. Netflix. So if there was enough time, I would always put Netflix on and they would watch, you know, Horrid Henry or whatever before they went home. It was kind of a given that was going to happen to the point where it was on our timetable. Like we had TV time and then home time on our timetable. So the kids know if we're not ready in time, we haven't got Netflix, we can't do birthdays, we can't do anything because we're not ready. This meant the kids tidied quicker. They reminded me when it was time to tidy up because they wanted those things at the end of the day, and it meant that we went home on time most of the days. Also meant that my class was tidying and I was no longer the person with the filthiest class at the end of the day, and I wasn't staying till 6 o'clock trying to tidy it up. So that is tip number 2, routine number 2, just have like a really specific sequence for the end of the day. Number 3, and this one is again more of a routine, but it is after break and after lunch. Pretty much any time they are coming back into learning. So it was tricky for me because after break and lunch they would all kind of bundle in and they're still all hyped up from being outside, and it would take them a really long time to settle down for the lesson. So what I started doing was after break we would have maths. So I would start snack and maths. They had a choice of taking my snack outside to break with them or leaving it till maths because they knew that we eat them in maths. And I often taught them with food, so they know that if they don't have a snack they're getting something in maths. But the rule was that they can't get the snack from me until they've started the work, or if it was involving the lesson, like the food was involved in the lesson, they couldn't have it till they've solved the problem. So they would come in, the slide would be on the ball straight when they come in, and I always have timers on my slides. Again, I will show you, hopefully you can see that now. But the children know that once the timer started, they have until it gets to 0 to get this done. If not, there is a reminder that says you should be finished in, and then it refers to the timer. So they know that they've got that much time to get this work done. That meant that they came in, and rather than having a chat or going for water or doing whatever, they would come in and start work because they can see that ticking down. I also always started it when I went to get them. So they sort of 5 minutes, like 4.5, because however long it takes them to sit down, they're losing their time. So that was one thing they did. After lunch was always spotlight stamina, so they come in and read. Same sort of thing as the break time thing, with the timer going when I go to get them, but they all had to read for 3 minutes, and if I see they've read for 3 minutes, I would call their name to move around the room so they could read on the cabinet, on the tables, under the table, under the desk, in a cupboard. I had a child go into the closet and just close the door with a little torch and read in the dark. But they can't move until they've read for a certain amount of time, because if they haven't, then they're wasting time. So that was really helpful. The other thing was that they would always go to the toilet or for a drink after lunch, and then I can't do the register because I'm in the classroom, or I mark them absent when they are here. So the rule was come in, sit down, register, get your book. You can have a drink or go toilet, wherever, after the register. You cannot go during register time, otherwise you're not in the room, I don't know you're not in the room, it's all a thing. So just having, again, specific activities that they know they can do, that's in their routine. If I come in from break time and lunchtime, I do this, this is going to the register, and I can sit here and do this. When she's finished, then I go to the toilet. It was really helpful for the kids to know that you can go to the toilet, just not right now, or you can have a drink, just not right now, because I need to do this first. So that's number 3. So the next 2 aren't really expectations, they're just more, no, they're not really routines, they're more expectations, but it's things that once you've got them set, particularly in the first week, it will make the whole year just flow a lot easier. Again, these are things that I didn't quite crack, and that's assembly, just expectations for assembly in general. Now, being an NQT, I hadn't had to really do that because in my placement, I was in foundation, they didn't do assembly. In my cross phase from another year group, I didn't go with them to assembly. So I never had to sit down and monitor a class in assembly, but I wish I had. My class, God love them, best first class, I love them to bits. They were horrific in assembly. We were always late, and that was on me because I forgot that we were meant to be going. They were talking. They would ask me to get a drink in the middle of assembly, and it's like, no, you can't leave the hall. I had one child who would always take the longest path to get to the door and back, which haunts me forever because every adult's looking at him like, what is he doing? So to address that, this year I am gonna make it like a game. So I'm going to teach my class the game Typewriter in the first week. This is a thing I've made up, but basically I call out a number and they've got to get into rows of that number. So if I say 3, they've got to get lines of 3, and it's got to be 1, 2, 3, and then the third person says ding, and then the next person starts, so 1, 2, 3, ding, 1, 2, 3, ding, until they're all in rows of 3. And then it's just letting them know that if you haven't got a whole 3, the last person still dings, and then they all sit down till they're finished. So I would just keep saying numbers 3, 5, 7, 10, whatever, and it's basically just getting them into lines, because then when assembly comes, it's guys, we're in rows of 7, so typewriter 7, and they will know to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ding. I will tell them not to say ding in assembly, but to kind of motion to the next person that they start a new line. And then when they're all in the line, I can do our school policy of giving them the 3, 2, 1 signal, and they can sit down. It was always a bit of an with my class. Towards the end, they worked out that there were 7 in a row, and if they're the 8th person, they move, because I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, next line, and they kind of picked up that way, but otherwise it was a bit Then on top of that, I would just talk to them about how we're not doing assembly right now because Rona, but when we are, you can't talk because it's rude, you can't go to the toilet, and you cannot have a drink. Do those things before assembly, not during. So yeah, just a heads up, guys. They need to be taught that. I did not think they did. So the next one is kind of similar to assembly, but it's lining up. And it is something that children just do in school. I have not yet been to a school where the children don't have to line up, but it's just about expectations for the children while they're lining up. So in my class, we have a 4S line, now a 5S line because of Corona, and that stands for standing, silent, smiling, still, and now safe. So all children are expected to be standing up in the line, standing straight in the line, giving me a smile, and standing still. So none of, this in the line, just stand still. And lastly, safe, so they need to be a certain distance away from the person in front of them. I enforced this in my class this year with the 4S line. From day one, I talked to them, like before we went somewhere for the first time, I said, okay, we're going to line up, but I want to show you how you should line up while you're in my class. And I said, we're going to always be in a 4S line. The 4S is stand for this, and I told them what it stands for. I showed them, and then I just brought it out and said, can anyone demonstrate for me what a 4S line looks like? So I called them one at a time, come and show me 4S line. You come and show me, okay, now 5 of you stand up and show me a 4S line. And they did that. Once we kind of practiced it, I said, okay, now we're going to go. Everyone stand up and line up in a 4S line. So they lined up in a 4S line. I would go around and have a look and say, okay, yeah, this is a 4S line. What would it look like? From then on, anytime we lined up, I would always start at the back of the line, work my way forward, and I had different kind of strategies. So either I'd go through and tick each person off, like, yes, well done, well done, well done, well done. Or I'd say, okay, I can see 1 S, I can see 2 S's, I've got 3 S's, I've got 4 S's, okay, we can go. Or I would literally, if they're lining up and I'm at the back of the room, getting something to go to pee or whatever, I would literally say, by the time I get to the door, you should be in a 4S line, and go to the door and turn around. And they're in a 4S line. I'm like, fantastic, we can do it. Now, this did take a long time, which is why they did it when I said that, because the first time we lined up for PE was horrific, and we did spend the entire lesson lining up and sitting down, and lining up and sitting down, And lining up, going to the hall, we lost the 4S line, so we went back to the class and sat down. And they literally had that for the whole first P lesson. So from there they learned, okay, we can't mess about. She will not take us to PE if we're not on the 4S line. So that is like a little hint to NQTs out there. Don't be afraid to do that. I was scared about doing that, and I did kind of let it go like 3 lessons before I did that. I was a bit like, whoa. But yeah, if you have to redo something, redo it. Like going back to assembly, when the really bad day we had, I let the whole of upper key stage 2 leave the hall first, and then said, okay guys, sit down, we're not leaving because you can't sit in assembly properly, so we're gonna practice that now. And then we're gonna do computing. So yeah, don't be afraid to sit them down and be like, guys, that's not good enough, we're gonna redo that. I rambled, I've gone off track, but yeah, lining up, teach me how to do it. Stop shaking, enough. So this is the very last one. Again, more of expectation. Well, it's kind of a procedure, but you can't really teach it because it's your emergency procedures. I'm in no way suggesting that you rock into school in September and just pull the fire alarm so you can show your kids how to do it. Don't do that. But it is about teaching them how to behave when that happens. So obviously you can't just pull a fire alarm or, you know, shout a lockdown and expect them to just go with it, because that's possibly very illegal. But things like, okay, this one's hard to explain. I wasn't even going to put it in the video because I'm not even sure how to explain it. But okay, so for example, during the register, we expect them all to be quiet because you need to hear who's here and hear the responses to know who you're marking in. So for me, teaching emergency procedures is like that. So it's getting the kids to know that when this is happening, I need you to be quiet because of this. If I'm doing register, you have to be quiet, because if you're not quiet, I can't hear who's here. I mark someone in, there's a fire, I'm looking for that person, and we're not even here. So just those sort of things. One way that I have kind of helped that in my class this year is giving everybody a class number. So 2 reasons I've done that is, one, because they will know their number, they will know the order that they stand in is alphabetical. So if I'm doing register, they know who's coming after them and who's before them. When we line up for fire drills, they know who's behind and in front of them. But the other reason I've done that is because I haven't got to remake those things every year, because there's no names, it's just a number. So the way that I'm doing that is the good old, you know, put yourself in alphabetical order. Then I will give out the class numbers and say, okay, this is your class number, it's going to be used here, 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 remember it. If there's ever an emergency, like a fire drill, like a lockdown or anything like that, I will be using your numbers to like take attendance to register that you're here. So I will either ask you to sound off, so they'll just sound off 1 all the way to 30, or I will quietly go around and look for you and your numbers. But that's just one way that I'm trying to get that, because we had drills in school, and again, it's not something you're prepared for as an NQT unless you had one during your training. But even then, you're not the class teacher at that point, so your class teacher might take over that rather than you. Like full disclosure, my first fire drill was great, apart from the fact that we were in PE and the children were changing, so they were all very panicked. And then we had a lockdown drill, which again, everyone's panicking in a lockdown drill, but it's tricky. It's a tricky situation. I highly recommend you talk to your mentors if you're worried about that, because I misunderstood a lot of things. So yeah, I've gone off track based on the topic of this video. My bad. Okay, so those are my top routines, procedures, expectations that I think you should teach in the first week of school. Like at the beginning, this is purely based on my experience as an NQT and what I think. By no means do you have to do this. I just think that they will really help you if you have these things down in that first week, because like I said, if you don't really have anything set for when they come in the mornings in that first week, then as you go on and try and put things in, it might get a bit difficult. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful for someone. If not, sorry. If it has been, please like this video, share it with any other NQTs or teacher friends that might find it useful. And if you would like to subscribe to my channel, I do have a couple other videos planned, one of which being how I make my PowerPoints. I've started making my one for the plant theme. I love it, it's beautiful, and I did a poll on Instagram and some people wanted me to make a video on how I make that. So that will be coming up shortly, by which I mean next few weeks. But I'm going to just end this one here. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram. I think I've done all the spiel already. So I'm gonna say bye. Bye. Catch you in the next one.